can do that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurst.
Maggie, I just want to say, there's some things that government shouldn't do. And what you're talking about is one of those things that I do not believe government should do. That is the job of community nonprofits. I've done a lot of voter registration and education campaigns, and we really don't want government going out organizing meetings to explain to people how to vote, right?
Right. That's why I was doing it, because I'm not in government. I said at the beginning, I don't want to run for office.
But let me just say, the League of Women Voters does one of the best jobs of really explaining both sides of ballot measures. It is in plain English. They do an
Why did she
excellent job
correct me
of
and say
that,
it's 250?
right?
I don't understand what she's even talking
Voters,
about.
they're getting up there in age and they don't like to go out to universities and disabled people because they,
However, it is available in every library. It is accessible.
And she turns
in
around
every
and says,
corner
no,
of
it's
the city of
250.
Portland, right? So
This
let's
is right off of her
utilize
document.
community resources that we have
Newspapers
rather
and
than
libraries,
trying
I
to
agree.
duplicate efforts that work so well.
It'd be great to have ballot boxes at the library.
It just doesn't make sense.
Gotta get closer.
There it is here. That's
Didn't see it.
Very, very good. Commissioner Fritz.
Maggie, I just want to
Where's
say thank
it
you
at?
for
Oh,
your
there it
testimony.
is.
Thank you for the work that you've done.
Yeah, I see it.
I shared
Yeah.
passion on this.
$500.
And then she comes back and says 250.
250, I know.
I mean-
Well, she's a politician. What do you expect for politicians?
Yeah.
You know how you know how you know a politician's lying? Their mouth is moving.
She corrects me with the wrong number.
I'd like to, put a little context. Back in 2012, 38,762 voters thought that Cameron Whitten would be the best state treasurer. But last, had crushed him with almost 1 million votes. And now we have a city council where I would say that the most elected person, even though only 3 people are currently in the 5 chairs, the most elected person is Joanne Hardesty, who had over 150,000 votes, almost 40,000 votes ahead of the actual mayor. And as we move towards the 2020 election, it's great that we're going to open an accountable election system, so more grassroots people that are not as engaged with the local democratic machinery will be able to run. But as we've learned from the mayor's questions, we have things in this ordinance like Part 15, Q3, Roman numeral 4, where unfortunately those things only all fit in 13 pages. But there's a maximum penalty of $10,000, and I think that that's the
That's a
thing that
big
actually
penalty.
most ties in with the concern that Lightning raised, is how do we make sure that one candidate, when they make have a problem, is not penalized more than another. It's going to be a learning process, and I'm definitely in favor of seeing you all vote unanimously as a unanimous panel of 5 to put this into practice.
Well, they charge that school resource officer in
Phrase
Florida.
Political Action Committee isn't in there, only the phrase political committee. So, hopefully what Lightning alluded to in his question that Amanda Fritz answered is people's conduct
I thought that was funny.
is an issue that we get to judge them by. If a person says, oh, I don't know if I want to use the highly regulated public process system, I just want to grab bootloads of cash from Monsanto or Nike and run.
Or Trump's ambassador to the EU.
Yeah, please, set up a panel or use Trump's EU ambassador. So, but please do vote yes, and make sure that we develop a context so that maybe there's eventually some language linking the amount of the penalty to the size of the indiscretion. I couldn't see in the brief time we were looking at this how that's in there, but it's an important program as we look at Commissioner Fritz moving on, and as our community tries to decide which
It
people are going to be
influences
vying
your
for the mayoral
vote
seat,
if you
how long
decide
to
not
pressure
to go
Joanne
with
to
this
run for
program.
that
They
seat.
have against the vote.
We
What is he
need
hiding?
to
But they don't
have
should
these
have to.
processes so
Right.
that great people that have already been mentioned, the late great Sue Stahl, who is no longer with us, can inform these conversations, and Philip Wolf. And I also hope that we get some progress to resurrect something like the PCOD, the Public Commission on Disability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks both of you.
Commissioner Fritz.
I just want to say we should
No, Maggie, I appreciate it. Commissioner Fritz.
Would you be comfortable putting an emergency clause on this? Would anybody not be comfortable putting an emergency clause on this?
Me. Don't.
And I move to add an emergency clause because it's in the public interest to have these rules in effect when the program opens on July 1st.
Second?
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Daly. Any further discussion on this particular amendment? Please call the roll.
We needed to have the media go over this.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Daly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment passes. To the main motion, Yep, this is a resolution. To the main motion as amended, please call the roll.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That is not right.
Something wrong on it.
I withdraw that. This is an ordinance.
Yep.
And we now put in an emergency clause. Right, okay, sorry. Coffee hasn't fixed it yet.
You did.
Aye.
Fritz.
Colleagues, thank you for delving into these rules, for the engagement in the system. Thank you very much to Susan Mote, Anna Pascal, Christina Nieves, and Tim Crail. Thank you to the Open and Accountable Elections Commission. You've done amazing work in a very, very short time. Thank you to the Voice for All Portlanders Coalition, who've been engaged in this process since the very beginning. And thank you just to the people of Portland for electing me in the first place with public campaign financing, and for knowing that this is wise use of taxpayers' money because it's going to increase the trust in government and the avoiding the appearance of corruption for politicians. It's small step,
Avoiding
it's a
the
necessary
appearance.
one. Aye.
That's influencing the vote.
First of all, sorry for the confusion. People may not realize that sometimes sitting in this chair requires an incredible amount of multitasking, and I sort of blew it there, so sorry for the confusion. I think this is an important step in the right direction. I want to be very clear. I think there will need to be revisions over time. I think there'll be a learning process, and this is a process that's going to evolve. But I want to thank Commissioner Fritz in particular for the considerable amount of effort that she and her team have put into this. And I'm glad that we now have the commission ready to step up their work. That gives more public eyes on the process. And I look forward to seeing how this evolves in the months and years ahead. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted as amended. Next item, please, is, yes, we do this 520.
Adopt the Portland Parks and Recreation Integrated Pest Management Policy to prohibit the use of Avitrol and other herbicides on city-owned property and infrastructure.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. In early 2018, the city received multiple reports of suspicious crow deaths across Portland. The Oregonian reported on witnesses who saw nearly a dozen crows falling dead out of the sky. Clearly, someone or something was poisoning crows. Anyone who has come downtown in the early evening during the winter has likely seen the annual gathering of crows. It's a spectacle to be seen. Thousands of crows amassing in trees, on power lines, and on rooftops. This annual gathering is not welcomed by everybody. The crows leave behind a mess, generating calls and emails from residents demanding that the city do something. While we cannot and should not control the natural behavior of thousands of wild birds, the city's response has been measured. Additional cleaning of the streets and sidewalks by Clean and Safe, and the hiring of a team of falconers to fly hawks through downtown. To some in our community, those efforts were not enough, and we think a resident may have intentionally fed birds Avitrol, the deadly commercial-grade neurotoxin that killed the crows. This is unacceptable. These poisons are inhumane, and these types of actions risk exposing the general public, local wildlife, and the entire food chain to a dangerous neurotoxin. Today, I'm proud to introduce representatives from both of my bureaus, the Bureau of Environmental Services and Parks and Recreation, to explain how we are working to prohibit the use of Avitrol and other bird poisons on public property. With us this morning are Nicole Lynan, Pest Management Specialist at Parks and Recreation, and David Helzer, Environmental Specialist with BES, with a presentation. After their presentation, we have invited a panel that includes Bob Salinger, Stephanie Boyles-Griffin, and Lisa Frisch. And after that, we're going to take a picture, if I can indulge the council. So Nicole and David, welcome and take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. Morning. My name is Dave Pelzer. I'm a biologist with Environmental Services.
We'll move the mic a little closer to you.
Integrated Pest Management Program.
I'm just going to give you a brief overview to build on Commissioner Fish's introductory comments. A little background on the history of City Council actions for protection of birds and conservation of other wildlife here in Portland. The city has taken a number of actions over the years, going all the way back to 1986, with the adoption of the great blue heron as the official city bird. And a little more information on crows in Portland. Crows are a familiar urban bird. They're renowned for their intelligence. During the summertime, crows are all throughout our neighborhoods right now, spread out throughout the city in family groups raising young. During the winter, crows form up into larger flocks, and on winter nights, they form communal roosts, numbering in the tens of thousands sometimes, usually thousands of birds. They do this because there's safety in numbers, for protection from the elements, warmth, for example, protection from predators, and also in these wintertime roosts, they share information on food resources. Along with this comes a nuisance, which is crow droppings on the sidewalk. Downtown Clean and Safe has used a couple of non-lethal strategies to address this nuisance of bird droppings on the sidewalks, including using, as Commissioner Fish described, falconers who have trained hawks. And these trained hawks harass the crows as they're settling in for the night and kind of herd them into safe areas, including the parks behind City Hall. And that's what this photo here illustrates, is the wintertime crow roost on a snowy night, taken by a representative actually of Portland Police Bureau. So Avitrol is an avicide. Well, what is an avicide? An avicide is a class of pesticide used to control birds. Avitrol is a lethal form of bird control. It's a neurotoxin. We've had several crow poisoning events, as Commissioner Fish mentioned, with dozens of dead and dying crows found falling from the sky, notably in 2014 and 2018. In those instances, it was confirmed that Avitrol was the cause of the crow deaths. It is unknown who used the product. The Oregon Department of Agriculture is investigating.
Direct energy weapons.
Avitrol and other avicides represent some significant risks to other birds. For example, birds that are not the target of the control. Wild birds can consume the bait, poison bait. Predators then can consume, such as eagles or falcons, can consume birds who consume the poison bait and absorb it that way. It's also a risk for pets who may consume the bait. And finally, it's a risk for people. In fact, the label for this restricted use avicide prohibits it being used in an area where children are present or an area where children may have access. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole now.
Thank you. As many of you know, Parks oversees thousands of acres of land, from natural areas to botanical gardens, golf courses, developed parks, each with varying sites and with specific needs, usabilities, and public expectations of uses. Because of this, Parks has an integrated pest management program to help manage the land. It's available to staff and the public, and is also adopted by many city bureaus. What is IPM? Well, it's a process, and it can be seen as a playbook with multiple tools in your toolbox to use when you have a pest. And it can also help you prevent pests from emerging as well. When a pest arises, the IPM program helps the staff decide if they should control the pest in the first place, what happens if they don't control the pest, and the best way to control it. So first we look to local city, state, federal agencies such as Soil and Water Conservation, Oregon Department of Agriculture, EPA, USDA, and with local universities on the best science available for pest management. Some control options that we utilize are cultural, physical, mechanical, manual, biological, and chemical, but usually it's a combination of a few of them. Once we make the application, then we monitor and the results and determine if we would need to repeat. Parks has recently added an avian management policy to our IPM program, reinforcing Parks and other city bureaus' stance of no chemical harm to birds. And it also guides employees to review BES best management practices for scheduling maintenance.